let me begin with basics. Today, Malaysia consumes amount of resources that is far beyond its fair share, so to speak. And it is not the largest rate of consumption in the world. But if every person in the world consumes like an average Malaysian, we will need already today 2 planets. More than that, Malaysia runs ecological deficit, using more resources than its ecosystems can renew. And Malaysian domestic material consumption per capita today is one of the largest in ASEAN countries. It's about close to 19 tons per capita as of data for 2015. So this disruption of the global or regional supply chains, that lack of self-reliance becomes somewhat risky. The problem is a real one, and while it might not manifest itself as a catastrophe yet, it must be addressed, as it is already directly related to the question of climate change and catastrophe they might come with it. Interestingly, the report published in April, already in COVID times, so to speak, by APSAS, shows that 2/3 of citizens around the world argue that climate change is as serious or more serious as a coronavirus. So how do we begin addressing this question in the current economic climate? In the current, next please, next slide, Vera. In the current economic model, development is strongly linked with resource consumption. Unlocking that relation is the key. The answer is really decoupling of economic activities from resource consumption and decoupling of economic growth from environmental degradation. And we trust that solution is coming within the concept and strategies of circular economy. Next slide, please. Circular economy aims not only at minimization of environmental impact across all stages of material and energy use, but at the development of new business opportunities, rejuvenation of natural systems, and increasing well-being of people. So as you can see, it's already put aside the potential conflict development, jobs, and the environment. What you see on the slide now are 2 cycles of circular economy. It's a famous butterfly of the Ellen Macarthur Foundation butterfly diagram. So you can see 2 cycles here. The biological one to the left and to the right is the technical one, which in the renewable bio-based material cycle to the left, the principle is that renewable bio-based materials can be returned to nature at a sustainable rate comparable with natural processes at the end of their life, if particular conditions are met, includes not being contaminated and being safe. Technical cycle, which is now to the right of the diagram, relate to the materials that are to be contained in the economic systems as long as possible through reuse, repair, manufacture, and recovery. Circular economy requires changes in the products, services, processes, and systems by which they are manufactured, distributed, and used. Such changes are mostly guided and informed by governmental policies granted, but yet they are not fully controlled with them. Therefore, realization of the main objectives and outcome of circular economy are indeed dependent on proactive actions and innovations put forward by the businesses and industrial sectors. It is they who employ new technology, create new business model, and experiment with different relations with the customers. Yeah, next slide, please. Looking beyond the current take, make, and dispose extractive business models, the circular economy is really about restorative and regenerative activities by design. From industry perspective, there are 3 main operational strategies, and our presenters will demonstrate how they embody them in their businesses. Number 1 is sustainable or less harmful input, where companies are maximizing use of renewables or less harmful materials. Second one is improving efficiency or use of materials and energy along all stages of production and consumption system, doing more with less, in other words. Number 3, it's maximizing perpetual cycling of end-of-life materials. So it's not one-time recycling. We look at the design which allows material and energy to go around over and over and over. So most of the companies do not restrict their actions to prioritizing one strategies. And again, our speakers will talk about this. They often select more sustainable inputs and increase their productivity through measures preventing wasteful activities through their key operations. Importantly, companies that source alternative materials often demonstrate development potential for providing jobs, to localities where they operate. And very often those localities are the ones where jobs are most importantly needed. Next slide, and it would be the last one. So work of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development identified 5 business models and 3 disruptive technologies that facilitate transitions to circular economy. So among the 5 business models, you can see them to the right: a supply chain, circular supplies, sorry, it's about renewables. It's a resource recovery, it's about using secondary resources. So it is product life extension, 4th, sharing platforms, and 5th, product as service, where we talk about renting, sharing, leasing, etc. Disruptive technologies, again, our speakers would demonstrate them, is about digital technologies, physical technologies, novel ones, 3D printing, nanotechnologies, robotics, biotechnologies, we speak about biotechnology, biocatalysts, etc., and technologies to keep an eye on transitions to circular economy. Those are. So you will see, as I mentioned, illustrations of these business models and technologies in the work of our speakers. But before we speak business with business, so to speak, let us again look at the rise of circular economy philosophy and strategies globally and specifically in Malaysia. And we are privileged today to have with us Professor Tan Sri Zakri, who combines very unique perspectives and experiences. He of course possesses deep knowledge of ecosystems and species, and at the same time he has an understanding of working of the government and intergovernmental processes when it comes to sustainable development. Professor Zakri, we invite you to take the virtual floor and look forward to your perspective.
Happy to discuss the topic today, and that is how we can maximize the potential of the Malaysian green industry, the renewable energy sector. And as someone was saying, we also hope that with our talents, Malaysia can be the hub for the circular economy for the ASEAN region. Well, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, we have no other options but to transform from our linear economy to a circular economy. As we have seen, the linear economy tend to do the following. One, it could cripple economic resilience. It could exacerbate social inequality and deplete natural resources. Farah, can you bring the slides to slide number 2 now? Okay, next one. Let's look at the role of the private sector. The slide before that, role of the private sector. Right, yeah. I must inform you that the circular economy is actually part of a long and historical narrative on sustainable development, a concept introduced by the Brundtland Commission more than 30 years ago and based on 3 pillars, namely economic, social, and environmental. And this concept of sustainable development has been revisited several times globally, namely at the Earth Summit in 1992, at the World Summit on Sustainable Development in 2001, and the latest one is in 2015, where the global community signed off on the 2030 development agenda with it 17 goals. And I must say also that recent studies have shown that companies that invest or have sustainability as part of their business plan will reap better economic benefits than those that don't. Next slide. Next slide, Farah. Yes, just 2 examples which has been practiced. One is in Toronto, where organic waste from household were turned into biogas that fuel trucks and also generate heating. And the other one is in New York City, where 4,500 businesses, as mentioned by Zinaida, were practicing this repair, reuse, and the sharing economy. Next slide. Next slide. So what can be done to speed the implementation of the circular economy in Malaysia? Go back to the earlier slide, Farah. Yeah, what can be done? But actually, it has started. It has started, but the government has not declared it publicly. We know very well there's an emphasis on decarbonization. There's a focus on renewable energy. There's a program on sustainable cities. There's projects on deforestation. There's emphasis on biomass, especially from the palm oil industry. So a focus on natural resources. At the same time, on the other side, when we look at the potentials of the IR 4.0, Malaysia itself have examined many of those technological trends that would have an impact on the circular economy, which would be of benefit to us. Just two examples. One is how big data and analytics can enable faster and smarter collections and analysis of large amount of data. And second, of course, how would 3D printing can prototype and produce individual components. Next slide. So, next slide. Yeah, in this webinar, we want to show how MIND acts as a facilitator and honest broker to encourage local companies to adopt clean technology applications. Today, we'll be hearing from those companies. This is under a program initiated by MIND called the Global Cleantech Innovation Program, GCIP. Yeah, this is a collaboration between MIND and a US-based company, Cleantech Open, and UNIDO, the United Nations Industries Development Organization. Here's a chance for linking Malaysian companies to the global market. Next slide. And here I list several objectives of the GCIP, the details here. It's really innovative when it was launched. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So then next one. To what extent has Malaysia adopted the circular economy? As I said earlier, we have started, but not much is done to encourage the public to understand and appreciate the concept of the circular economy. I think it's still a nascent concept. Our society is still sleepwalking along practicing the linear consumption model. Just to give an example, thank God we have the MCO now. But previously, look at the mountain of food waste generated at previous Ramadan seasons. And we are not even tapping those landfill for gas as they would do in Toronto. And also, ladies and gentlemen, this is a question of attitude. It's a question of philosophy. As we speak, we found reports that there are still people who are trying to make it to their kampong to celebrate Hari Raya. They say no, you know. So that's the kind of situation we have. Next slide. Sarah, next slide. So, the way forward, very briefly, I think this catastrophic COVID-19 pandemic is almost like a great alarm clock with the impact of a sledgehammer on our health and our economy. We must act now. There's no other way because our economy needs to be rebooted. The circular economy, if you look at the details, can have the potential to create thousands of much needed jobs, foster economic prosperity while reducing our emissions. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you.
Zinaida, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, am I muted or unmuted now?
Unmuted.
Unmuted. Thank you. Thank you. We will go into discussion with Professor Zakri when discussing further the packages of the policies and ecosystem in general, which needs to be there to promote circular economy with respect to different sectors of a society, including for the innovators. But before we do that, we will speak really with two companies, which I mentioned before, embody an embedded circular economy in their own practices. But let me mention something else, that making industries and societies in general really circular requires innovations in a variety of areas. New circular products will be based on different materials and designs, which need to be also certified and assured in their quality. Industrial operations might require much more careful planning and control, and technologies employed in the companies would need to be supported by new standards of performance. So it's actions at different levels. The circular economy can be a rather simple concept at its basics, but the whole revamping of the system could be rather complex. So such requirements call to the stage new entrants, those innovative enterprises that provide services for planning, optimizing, accelerating processes of other more conventional manufacturers towards circularity, and those innovative enterprises that build their businesses around principles of circularity. And representative of two of such companies are with us today. It is Maeco and Freeze Feed. They will tell us the story of their businesses and reflect what makes the company resilient to various shocks and fitting for the future as it can be sustained, so to the sustainable and less vulnerable future. So it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Chelsea Chi, the founder and CEO of Maeco. Chelsea, please come on.
Thank you, Prof. Zinaida. My slide, okay. Good afternoon to all. First of all, I would like to say thank you to all the partners who has made all today's sharing possible, Mind, USM, Apex, and Untitled Chapter, and also for giving NACO this opportunity to share today. As you can see from the slide itself, I would like to share to everyone a closed-loop food waste solution today, which has been a vision of all founders of NACO. And through this vision, we support United Nations SDG 12, of course, which is responsible consumption and production, where one of the target, which is target 12.3, that by year 2030, the global food waste per capita must be reduced by half. Okay, next slide, Farah. Okay, so let us look into some statistics that has been provided by Pemandu. If any of you don't know who's Pemandu, it's Malaysia's Performance Management Delivery Unit, where in 2015, they took a study in the future strategies and action plan for Malaysia on solid waste management policies. So what they've gotten from there is they found out that Malaysia generates 33,000 tons of solid waste per day. And out of that 33,000 tons of solid waste, 45% of it is made out of organic waste. Now, from there, food waste is actually part of that. So our Solid Waste Corporation also came up with a statistic to show that 15,000 tons of food waste are discarded on a daily basis by Malaysians. So for your info, for those who not know so much about food waste is actually divided into two categories. One is the avoidable waste, food waste, and of course, what is unavoidable food waste and avoidable food waste? Let me just give you a little brief. Avoidable food waste are food waste that can still be consumed but are being discarded or lost uneaten throughout the food supply chain. Now, this category of food waste is possible to be avoided or minimized if sustainable measures or steps are implemented. Now, there are organizations that are helping out in this, such as Lost Food Project, Soup Kitchen, come to think of it, Grub Cycle, where food are collected and donated to respective needy groups, or even processed into other form of food that can be consumed. Now, the other category we're looking at is the non-avoidable food waste, of course, which under normal circumstances, people can't take those food anymore, such as bones, shells, or you can have fruit peels that you don't take in. So food waste also includes organic waste discharge, not forgetting that, from various sources, including food processing plants, domestic and commercial kitchen, cafeterias, and even restaurants. Also, please don't forget, even from the hospitals at this moment of time. As mentioned earlier, Mako's vision is all about waste valorization. So you can see on the right side of the slide, which means we convert waste into valuable resource. Now, we designed a machine, because of that, we designed this machine combining both biological and mechanical system to convert all types of food waste into compost within a short period of 24 hours. Now, a normal composting process will normally take 2 to 3 months, which is, come to think of it, is very inconvenient, and a non-sustainable solution, after all, for urban development. Of course, that is where all the food waste are generated from. All right, so by adopting Mako's waste valorization concept, the user helps to reduce greenhouse gas by 66%, as they now don't throw it to the landfills anymore. Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now here are some of the successful sites which we have implemented over the years. We have partners and users who have adopted Mako system since 2015 to resolve their food waste issue and tackle them at source. This shows us that it is possible to have a closed loop for food waste management. As you can see also, Mako, being a Cleantech innovator, is the key enabler for organizations who wants to incorporate and embrace a circular economy concept into their business in food waste management. Now, however, by looking at this through our business journey, we realize our system are mostly adopted by larger organizations and MNCs with sustainable KPIs to meet or for MNCs who can afford to purchase them. Now, we hope many more organizations in an SME or cafe or even food kiosks or food trucks will also look into this approach, even though everyone is working on this separately, but we are moving towards the same goal on establishing a more resilient nation in terms of, number one, hygiene. We're talking about also cleanliness to defense against pandemic right now, and also climate change. Okay, well, it's all about doing more for less, like steps of food waste segregation or composting may seem very difficult for us and very tedious, but we are generally teaming up to reduce food waste to obtain a cleaner and healthier environment for our future generations. Okay, so next slide, please, Farah. All right, so as much as I shared just now, Mako has been practicing a very linear business model. So all these years since we deployed our first machine in 2015, we have been doing that. So what do I mean by that? We have always been selling our food-based machine directly to our customers. So during this pandemic situation, we realized that business has reduced tremendously. The sales revenue has reduced, demand on our machines plunged, and supply chain affected us also greatly. So we realized during this period that a linear business model will not sustain the company in any form of pandemic, or even if there's any future environmental challenges that may hit us again, right? So we took steps. Yeah, we took steps in taking to mitigate all these challenges. What we have done is we have done. I would like to share with you that we have strategized our business model from linear to a sustainable circular economy model by offering a rental scheme for easy and immediate implementation. So customers are offered a 3 to 5 year yearly contract, where of course you come to think of it, where the income is actually recurrent, and it's a guaranteed monthly income after all. Unlike the initial linear income, simple to say is no sales, no income. That's the issue. So that's linear. So we don't want to move to that. So now the next thing we did was we reposition and look into additional source of income from our resource. So the end product, which is our compost. Yeah. So that is a circular economy. So thirdly, we retailored our production line through circular economy concept on our product life cycle analysis. Let me show you on our next slide. Yeah, sorry. So you can see from there just now, I think, Farah, can we go back again? I want you all to see from the right, you can see that we re-rent, we repair, we return, we refurbish, and we go back to re-rent again. So that is the whole idea of a circular economy business model. So you don't have to own the machine. Yeah, all you need to do is to settle your own food waste at source, and we provide you with the best model. Okay, so the next slide, please. Okay, now, so we bring to you these 3 dimensions of Mako, sustainable business, within our organization, and the preparation towards creating a more resilient business model, which will continuously provide a sustainable and recurrent revenue for the company. Now, as you see, when you look at the outer loop that we have, you can see the outer loop. It's a circular economy business solution where Mako offers to external market on a food waste management solution where food waste will be valorized to compost, and then back to the farms, and then of course as food sourced to the plants, and the harvest will be then brought to our table for consumption. So the waste collected is then back again to the valorization cycle. So this is a circular economy that we're talking about for outer loop. Yeah, okay. And let's go into the inner loop now, which is the middle loop, which is our financial loop. Reassures us on a resilient and sustainable revenue model where the food waste composting machine is rented out, and then it comes back, we maintain it for a longer product life cycle, is then returned back to our factory when the contract ends. Then the next contract takes over to continue the next revenue cycle. So this is the middle revenue loop that we are talking about. Okay, now we go into the inner loop where Mako adopts an internal production life cycle. Of course, when we take care of the outer one, we have to take care of the middle one, then we have to still take care of our production life cycle. Okay, this is where we adopt another circular economy model, which we practice cradle to cradle. You can see on the loop there, our strategy of moving towards the rental scheme has enabled us to complete a circular production life cycle. And how is that? All machines returned by the end of the rental contract will be refurbished and upgraded if needed, and back into the middle loop. So therefore, we do not discard any waste into the landfills. All right. So that would be efficiency of our parts, which is 90% of the parts will be back into the system, and 10% will be recycled for further use or perhaps for part enhancement. Yeah. So it is important, before I end my talk, it is very, very important to uphold all the 3 loops as shown here to create a cost-driven business with primary intention to conserve the environment, serve the community, and yet still profitable to sustain. Okay, so that's all for me today. I hope everyone has gained some information from here. Hope to speak to you again. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elsa. It's a fascinating story, and thank you for getting it in such a concise and pointed way. So clearly Moeka went into being an actor in the circular movement of the material, or in other words, circularizing company at the large scale into being truly circular business in its own right. So you retain its position as a circularizing partner, but you also turned through PSS, or product service system models, through rental approach to business, into minimizing materials around your own product. So your product
That's right.
this service. It's a fascinating example how money could be made, yet the whole consumption of material and circularity in the society preserved. Thank you very much. It is now time for Professor Ramanas from Free the Seed to share his fascinating story, which is having slightly different highlights in how circular businesses are serving the societies and the community. Professor Ramanas, please step in.
And good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, moderator, and also thank you to Mike for inviting Free the Seat to be one of the speakers in this esteemed program. Sarah, can we have the first slide? Right. My company name is Free the Seat, Sandra Brahat. We are in a waste circular economy, sustainable, biodegradable packaging product business, a certified circular economy company. These slides are a bit wordy, but towards the end of these slides, so be patient with me. And I'm inside a factory now, in my factory, so apology if there's any background machinery noise, so bear with me. So Free the Seat is a Malaysian company in the business segment under the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals of 1, 3, and 13, poverty, clean, and also climate action. The company was incorporated in focusing on research and development and manufacturing of biodegradable packaging products, not from plastics, not from paper, not from tree, but from paddy waste, cellulose, fibrous, biomass materials. Our humble journey in the circular economy business started in a small rented laboratory. We started from R&D phase, POC, proof of concept phase, pre-com phase, market validation phase, commercialization phase, and now we are in the business expansion phase from 1 factory to 3 factories, and we are growing. So we started with a $70,000 US dollar revenue approximately, and now we have close to $8 million US dollar book orders now. So thanks to the circular economy business model. We are SME, we are small, we are a scale manufacturing oriented company operating at the moment 2 factories on a 24/7 with close to 50 workers in our main plant in Kedah State, which is northern part of Malaysia, and also involvement of nearly 1,300 paddy farmers in the entire supply chain of our circular economy business. We accomplished the above success in terms of implementing a real on-the-ground circular economy activities, such as new job creations. B40 means is the lower category income from the economic point of view of paddy farmers' livelihood. So we enhance their livelihood, mitigations the open burning of paddy straw biomass in the entire supply chains, and also sustainable people, profit, planet deliverables. Through the great assistance and mentoring from MITES, GCIP program, Global Cleantech Innovation Program, a world-class green tech innovation accelerator program for startup like us. So thanks to Mike to Free the Seat. Next slide, Farah. Farah, can we move to the next slide? So what is the problem that we are addressing with our business? So one of the serious problem statement in the global market in the packaging industry is the SUP, single-use plastics. Before that, Farah, prior to this slide, can we go back to the slide before this?
Sir Ramanis is already there.
Yeah, this is the one, right. So the huge environmental impact from single-use plastics, such as plastics in the oceans, new landfills creation to manage the single-use plastic waste, depletion of natural resources like petroleum for the usage of single-use plastic productions, non-renewable raw materials for single-use plastic production, and etc. is simply not sustainable anymore. So many countries have introduced banned single-use plastic regulations, including Malaysia through the policy of Malaysia Roadmap towards Zero Single-Use Plastic 2018-2030. Hence, a viable, sustainable, and circular-based solutions need to be introduced quickly to mitigate the greenhouse gas pollutions derived from the supply chain of SUP, single-use plastics. We have started after more than 5 years research and development and have introduced a clean and green innovation of biodegradable compostable packaging products, alternative to plastics, made from the waste paddy straw biomass materials. It is clean, green, sustainable, viable, and above all, the manufacturing supply chain is completely circular economy driven ecosystem. Therefore, our biodegradable takeaway paddy straws product made by us from the circular economy supply chain, not only addressing the market problems, but also mitigate millions of CO2 emissions in the upstream, which is from open burning of paddy straw. So now we mitigate the open burning of paddy straw biomass, and also downstream activities, which is a more sustainable waste management instead of the waste management pollution from single-use plastic. And of course, not only that, yeah, our biodegradable takeaway paddy straw trees is also edible. I can eat now, but unfortunately today I'm in the factory, so it is. So the waste is no longer waste. That's my point. Next slide, Farah. Moving forward, what is our strategy to overcome challenges from global pandemic and economic crisis? So in our 5 years business plan, we have already built in some resilient measures as part of our intervention in the event of such global pandemic or economic crisis or supply chain disruptions. So we have adopted a 2M strategy. Basically, like the first one is material security. So basically, I would like to summarize the words here. We have secured from our upstream raw materials for the next 10 years. So the circular economy concept that we have introduced in our supply chain involving 1,300 paddy farmers works very well during this COVID-19 pandemic situation, whereby the farmers were still able to do their paddy post-harvesting job and baling the waste paddy straws and stockpile it in a just-in-time logistics system. Therefore, though the stocks were left over on the paddy fields during the lockdown period or PKP period or MCO period, we still managed to recycle them and make good of use of it after the lockdown period is lifted. So this is, in a way, a part of Industry 4.0 system where we implement a well-managed biomass material just-in-time logistics system, a new innovation in managing a biomass waste supply system. And secondly, by having a good raw material security, we also need off-takers security, market security. So innovative products that are recession are crucial to sustain any business. So we always focus on innovation capacity building in our company. So all the product and processes in our circular economy supply chain are designed to be sellable in any market situation, including the current pandemic situation as we are seeing now. In this regard, unlike many factories, especially SME factories whom are slowing down or even closing down. On the other side, we are seeing an upward trend in order books, so nearly 34% sales increase during the lockdown period. Reason, our biodegradable takeaway products is a huge demand now due to the huge growth in the F&B takeaway market segment. Especially the circular economy certified products, there's a huge sales demand in the European market now, also in the United States market now. So market security also has been one of our strategy that we managed to overcome the challenges from this global pandemic and economic crisis. Next slide, Farah. So now the future outlook for clean tech innovators. So as you know, globally, the best practices from Sustainable Development Goals and and circular economy business model mainly are focusing on product innovations for higher quality product, competitive costs, and solving the market problem. So therefore, the future outlook for clean tech innovators will consider the following businesses and innovation strategy in order to sustain and enhance their businesses, revenues, profit margins, and positive balance sheet, such as adoption and implementation, wherever possible, the Industry 4.0 element in their products and process innovations, like 3D printing, participate in MITE's GCIP program or any other clean tech accelerator programs, involved in public-private partnership, such as engagement of academia for R&D support and circular economy business coaching support, and reach out to the vast global market for circular economy-based products. So these are the future outlooks for any clean tech innovators who are venturing into this new emerging business. So the main lessons learned from the journey of our company in the circular economy business model is, firstly, the challenges that we face. Designing and implementing a circular economy business, never an easy task. And many barriers such as trade barriers, cost barriers, validation and approval barriers. But the experience in overcoming these barriers in the course of implementing a circular economy business model is tremendous, and this experience can be monetized in the long run. Those are the challenges. And the opportunity, new markets, opening up a new horizon of circular economy markets. And we're also doing a good thing, saving the planet Earth with this circular economy business model. Next 3 slides is basically a pictorial slide. This is our circular economy product concept. From farm to products, to compost, to biodegradation, and recycle back to new biomass material. Next slide. These are the 3 SDGs that we are focusing on in our business. SDG 1, SDG 3, and SDG 13. Our circular economy products, which is not from petroleum, not from deforestation, but from biomass material from agriculture waste residues. Also mitigating the open burning of biomass material. So there's a new value add to this used to be waste raw materials. This is our life cycle of our circular economy biodegradable packaging business, right from the paddy fields to the process of agriculture waste materials, to biotechnology adoption of the process formulation, product manufacturing, and compost and back to the earth. Maybe this is the last slide. These are the real circular economy on the ground pictures with many farmers. Thanks to MITE for assisting us in putting up the circular economy together with the partnership from farmers and the industry. Right. I think that's all. Thank you very much. And I hope this is also enlightened your circular economy understanding from the industry perspective.
Thank you very much, Professor Romanos. And our audience, I'm sure, have noticed contribution of Fries's seat into circular economy along the lines of at least two circular economy strategies, relying on buyer input and also a circularity dimension of it. And the livelihood of 1,300 farmers have been also boosted. And I'm sure it has been appreciated during this period of limited economic activities. Now, as we do not have too many questions, audience is being rather shy. So again, remind all of us, if you want to ask the panelists something, or if you want to express any view about what it is saying, it would be nice to type into the window to the right, which all of us seen. And while you are thinking about expressing yourself in this way, let me then take this chance and put a couple of questions to the panelists. And one question would be for the company, for Chelsea and Professor Romanos, which would be how your experiences as a company and your journey with circular economy made you more resilient as a company. This question is critical as resilience signifies ability to overcome unexpected disruptions of various natures in the future. And a modification of this question for Professor Zakri is really how, in your experience with development of Malaysia, made you convinced that circular economy is the right approach. You clearly indicated it, but perhaps you can go a little bit more in depth. Here, perhaps a possibility to highlight that country is slowly exploring circular economy avenue, but maybe some points where synergies could be created, could be brought forward by you. So that's the question which I would like to pose first. And the second question is really, what is the way forward to enable transition of industries towards more circular activities, you feel? And specifically, what needs to be done to support clean tech entrepreneurs? But let us first focus on the first question of resilience of journey with circular economy for the companies as well as for Malaysia. Who would like to go first? Perhaps I can ask Professor Zakri to take the floor.
Thank you. The first question you asked me is how could Malaysia take advantage or move forward on the circular economy? I think it's not a question of how or why, but it's a question of must. The country has no choice but to embark itself upon the circular economy. And it ranged from our big primary commodities like oil and gas, and also the oil palm industry and the estates. And of course, the third one is on the SME. But there needs to be a political will to adopt the circular economy, which is being done in a hurry in countries like in the European Union, Japan, Korea, and also the USA. In fact, all this can also be put under what is now called the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is the buzzword, and Malaysia has not announced its intention. But as I said earlier, Zinaida, Malaysia has done in bits and practices what is seen to be done for the circular economy or the Green New Deal. It's a question of mobilizing, one, within the government, the relevant ministries which need to act in an integrated and holistic manner. Second, getting the private sector to be engaged, to be involved in the green economy. And thirdly, engaging also academia of course, providing R&D and all that. And fourthly, the civil society. So those four stakeholders needs to be involved. But eventually, the country has to get together on this. But we are very lucky with COVID-19. I think the government is more amenable to hearing our suggestion. Yeah, thank you for the time being.
Thank you very much, Professor Zakri. And now can I turn the question to, or the floor to Chelsea, to you. And while you're my question, could you also answer one of the questions from the listeners, which is much more technical one? Because you can you can address them together. So the question is really about a scheme or possibility existing or potential for buying back compost, as some of the compost produced through using of your machines cannot be utilized on the spot. So please go ahead.
Okay, I can see Encik Hasif asked a question on buyback policy. Yes, in MACO, we do practice a buyback scheme. We have repositioned ourselves to, of course, the end product would be another source of income to the company, which we will buy back. That's one of the things that we will do. And in terms of the circular economy, which I'm trying to address Professor Zinaida's question, it comes again into the three dimensions of MACO again. But of course, in the circular economy business models, you have to take things on a step-by-step basis. So always go into the internal business solutions first, and then we move towards the outer dimension of the business model. That's what I can say. Of course, please look into valorization, because in the waste industry, we are supposed to, of course, best to look into the valorization of waste as to be more profitable along the way when we prepare ourselves to be more resilient towards any other economic or pandemic issues. Thank you. For those who are adopting our machines at this point of time, we do buy back their compost, and we do, of course, sell them, and also we provide community composting projects that we give away to farmers on their for organic plantation or farming as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. There was also a question about pricing of your machine, but I suggest that this question would be addressed directly to you upon completion of the seminar.
Yes, of course.
So please, and now, Professor Ramanas, so if you could reflect on the question of your acquired resilience through circular economy process, but also there came a question from the audience about logistical challenges which you might experience now with respect to preparing your produce for foreign markets, European or American ones. So perhaps you can comment quickly on that and your thinking to overcome it.
Hi. The logistical problems or issues that it could be a problem actually during the pandemic situation is we resolve this situation because we have a long-term logistic contracts with the shipping agents, and therefore we don't see major issues or major problems during this lockdown situation or MCO situation. our goods are being shipped without any major hiccups. Small delays, but there's no any major hiccups because we have a regular shipping services given by the few logistic companies. Therefore, we are able to mitigate any shipment problems or logistical problems.
And the question about your specific resilience, if in a couple of sentences you can highlight that. You spoke about this in your presentation, but really to make a punchline, what makes your business resilient in spite of current or potential future hits?
The product that we design and the product that we offer to the market is in a way is resilient or recession proof, because one of the key products that we produce and manufacture and supply to the export market is the biodegradable food packaging and food packaging products. So in fact, during this pandemic situation, there's a huge demand for takeaways because less people go for dining in a restaurant. So therefore, the demand for takeaways has gone more than 20 or 30x compared to the normal consumption, annual consumption of those disposable packaging. To be frank, we are more busy than before the lockdown.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Prof. Ramanas, one question actually which was specifically also addressed to you is, what is your way of convincing the farmers to step into the whole circular economy affair? So was it difficult? What was your argument? And how quickly resistance, if it was there, was overcame?
Initially, there were a couple of resistance because this is a totally unique, pioneer solution which has not been introduced in a mass scale in any paddy fields in Malaysia. So open burning used to be the standard SOP post-harvesting every 6 months, and which caused huge amount of greenhouse gas emissions and pollution. So when we brought the idea of, please do not do any more open burning, and we will buy your waste, we'll give you additional money for your waste, and we will teach you how to process, self-collect at the early stage the waste and supply to the factories. So in fact, we don't see much challenges, but we see a lot of buying in, a lot of support, a lot of commitment from those farmers, because in addition to their regular income from their paddy crop, now they're getting additional income from the paddy waste. So of course, the credit goes to MITE for putting us together, both the industry and the farmers, through the Global Cleantech Innovation Program. So that was a great tool for us to bring or bridge together these two communities. So that's the situation.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. One of the questions here has been related to experiences of two of you, Chelsea and Ramanas, on how Malaysian government supported you in your circular economy initiative. I will briefly answer it. So three of the speakers today mentioned that both of the companies have been a part of the GC program, which has been providing assistance in strengthening the entrepreneurial clean tech innovations. And companies actually not only graduates or alumni of this, but the finalists and winners in different years. So that's one. But perhaps another complementary question to Chelsea, you and Professor Ramanas. How do you currently assess efficiency of the governmental support to MSMEs during this crisis? Without too many details, maybe you could just quickly comment, and I'm saying without many details because the seminar is a little bit different in focus?
I think the government now is actually taking steps to team up with private corporations to create more awareness on waste management. Currently, we are also working very closely with bioeconomy to create awareness to more organizations on solutions on waste management. Those were the days when we started. There were no awareness, not enough. People don't understand what food waste is all about. People throw them away and categorize them as just waste that cannot be recycled. It's thrown away like diapers. So now I think by teaming up with government-linked companies and government, we are able to create more programs to run and create more awareness to make things right.
Thank you very much. And Professor Ramanas, a word from you.
As you know, federal government has started an initiative called the Policy on Malaysia Roadmap towards single-use plastic. Yeah. So there are a couple of programs, tools, and systems where the federal government is rolling out to towards the ban of single-use plastic, and therefore enforcement regulations and incentive has been laid down for the stakeholders to take up this opportunity to minimize single-use plastics, maximize compostable circular economy products, and this is also in collaboration with respective states. So I think this is a great, fantastic initiative and leadership that has been taken by both federal government and state government, and they're doing very, very well. And we are one of the solution providers within the context of this roadmap as a manufacturer who has circular economy products to the local market and also to the export market.
Thank you very much, Professor Ramanas. I see a few questions which allude to insufficiency or complexity, or rather insufficiency of the work of some of the industrial operations, doing a bit of a window dressing in their activities, for example, in the area of recycling. There's some reference of selling scrap metals for pennies, etc., and putting all of the rather symbolic, let's put it, actions as attempts towards circularity. It's also a question of governments promoting circularity in Malaysia or not. So to what extent it is happening. So let me try to plug those two questions and ask, on one hand, Professor Zakri to think about it, how to, on the one hand, encourage private sector to make more ambitious actions, on the other hand, what would be the first or second or third steps for the Malaysian government to start bringing the whole agenda of circular economy together. But before you preparing your answer, may I just quickly react as well from my side? I agree that some businesses are not realizing their potential to the fullest extent. They still run linear economy for whatever reason. And the reason for that is, of course, there is really not enough pressure or demand. Either legally there are no laws, coherent laws, or there are really no enforcement for that. So the framework has to be there, and there is very rudimental, still unfortunately, market demand. So yes, we all agree far too little actions needs to be much more. But it brings us to this whole question of circular economy, and whether circular economy can become really the inspiration for the recovery after lockdown period now. So, but here are a few very important things to remember. Yes, Malaysia has a lot of elements of circular economy. It's a huge emphasis on the question of using renewables, commitment for climate change. There are laws and regulations alluding to resource efficiency, etc. But recovery, let us take it in the context of recovery. Recovery depends on several factors, including how stimulus packages for the business will be structured. is if there is a blanket handouts to the companies or to whoever not, the shift might not happen at all towards greener or circular or whatever operations. If there are some conditions, however, attached that encourage companies to employ preferred technology, or if sectors that intend greening or already becoming greener or cleaner, if they can be privileged in this support, that can bring us to desired future. That also would require coordinated responses across the variety of responsible ministerial departments. And at different level, coordinating governance would need to be required as well as legislation. There would also be a need to look at the policies that work against circular economy or against the Green New Deal, such as fuel subsidies. They are around close to 11 billion USD in Malaysia for the fuel subsidies. Now, let me return to a short remark I made before on the matter of if now, then it might not be happen, or at least not in our lifetime. It is unlikely that governments will, in the coming several decades, spend as much money as they do now. It's just not possible. Government will not have this money. And if not, the catastrophe of climate change or ocean degradation or soil acidification will happen sooner or later. So we are really at the turning point today, and therefore this coordination must happen at different levels and rather aggressively. And through recovery with strings attached to supportive loans at the with favorable conditions, for example. With this, Professor Zak, ask you perhaps to comment on this.
Yes, this is a very interesting question and most relevant. So I think the way forward, Zinaida, to make things happen, we have some examples showed by the two companies just now. How do you amplify that to make it a national undertaking? You mentioned earlier there are bits and pieces here and there, but we need to unify those elements. To start with, I think we need a champion, and we need the political will. So the best way, and that is from my experience in government advisory services previously, is to get the Prime Minister himself to champion this, to make this circular economy attractive to the citizens, to the rakyat. So that is the political buy-in that we need. Further than that, it is quite instructive that we start developing a national policy on the green economy, in which we would develop strategies, programs, and action plans to undertake that. Our colleagues also have gained some assistance benefits, not only from mine, but also bioeconomy. There are already quite a number of government-backed entities which could be brought into the system and provide the wherewithal to organize such a project. I also hope that this notion of the circular economy is not by the way, but something to be put mainstream, which would support the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 development agencies. So government must be on board, as we kept saying several times, ministries, departments, and also government-linked companies. Secondly, the private sector must also be sensitized. Earlier, I mentioned that companies that invest in sustainability would get a better return in the long run. And that has to be delivered to the companies in Malaysia, starting from the big boys to the SMEs. Finally, Zinaida, at a certain point, and this might be in the policy, there should be laws which would encourage the development of the circular economy and enforcement which would discourage deviant behavior. Malaysia is quite well known in developing laws and also policies, but we are quite notorious in the lack of implementation. So what I'm saying here, the system has to be inclusive, participatory, and with good vision that it could get the support of the people of Malaysia, or as we call it here, the rakyat. Because the way I see it, in an unsustainable world, we have no other options. And finally, let me also just leave the words here by saying, in our zealousness to look at post-COVID-19, where the emphasis is on health and saving lives, and also the emphasis is rebooting the economy and create jobs for those that are lost. One particular thing that we must remember is to respect nature. That can be easily sidelined in today's discussion. After all, as you recall, COVID-19 is really an impact which was caused by humans' activity against nature by going into those habitats of wildlife. So there you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zakri, and particularly for bringing the whole idea of ecosystems and habitats and how they fit into the whole discussion now. And in fact, this is the topic which gets a lot of very positive solutions nowadays globally, where the jobs are being created around recreation of habitats and tree replanting, but not tree as a carbon sink, but really as a way of sustaining livelihood and ecosystem. So that's another way of looking at the rejuvenation of economy, or build back better. Now, there are a few questions coming, including the question from if calculation of potential contribution of circular economy to Malaysia, to Malaysian GDP has been calculated. No, it has not been. The only two countries I know the potential of circular economy has been calculated is India and China, and there are trillions of dollars. So Malaysia would have to do this kind of job if potential is systematically to be realized. There are some questions about possibility of introducing a technology and business model, I would imagine, of Macarthur to help to reduce food waste from the households. I suspect that this kind of things would also need to be discussed directly with Macarthur, but I can see how maybe neighborhood associations could unite to bring Macarthur your products for their consumption, and what would be the role of the government in it. I don't know, but clearly neighborhoods potentially can bring it as own solution. So it doesn't need to be always with the government, in my view. But please get in touch with Chelsea to discuss that as a potential tripod collaboration between government and neighborhoods or people and Macarthur. There is also a question rather complicated on the contract, which might become a contentious issue when companies are getting organic waste, for example, from the palm oil mills, produce some valuable materials from that which could be sold. I'm not quite sure about, I misunderstand this question, so we don't have much time to explore what it's all really about. Please call, write to me, whoever put this question forward, we will try to explore that. Now, affordability of green solutions. It's an interesting question, and I am afraid it could not be answered with respect to just any technology. Some of the green solutions are still economically unaffordable. For example, if you would like to sequestrate CO2, say put it into the oil fields to enhance productivity of those oil fields. It is kind of green solution in terms of efficiency, if you want, and in terms of getting rid of CO2, though it's questionable by many solutions. But so it's possible, but technically it is extremely expensive. While some other solutions are actually already very affordable and very competitive. They would be much more competitive if some of the subsidies, for example, for fossil fuel, etc., would be removed. So immediately it would bring renewable energy much more
enjoy that kind of video content.
Into the game. What is it? Can somebody mute the mic?
So basically, smartphone
Can you check if you could just mute the interfering sound? Thank you. It is a complex question about affordability. Affordability could be brought into game, but it would require a rather complex design or redesign or reassessment of the policy instruments and some of the actions. But many clean technologies today are available or would be available if they would be given a fair either support to gain recognition on the market or fair competitive edge in comparison to those technologies which are currently subsidized for whatever reasons. So that's very quick reaction. And let me just put one small last question to our participants, 1 minute each. Would you please be able to give the last suggestion or a couple of suggestions for small companies in current periods, how to live now or look into the future? Could I please ask Chelsea, you to begin?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Dinaida. Well, as entrepreneurs like us, clean tech innovators, we must believe that when one door closes, another door opens. So instead of going back trying to open a closed door, we should be looking at the direction of the open door and search for new opportunities. That's how we have to pivot from a linear business model to a circular one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. And a short word of advice from Professor Ramanis.
I just, Dinaida, I'm a Mr. Ramanis, not Professor.
So it's an encouragement for you to become a teacher. Please.
Thank you for the credit. From a pre-the-seed point of view, as I said, first of all, we don't see this pandemic situation. Fortunately, we didn't see it as a crisis or as a problem. In fact, the huge demand suddenly came up for our nature of paddy straw compostable packaging products due to hygienic reasons, due to environmental reasons, and due to affordability reasons. So, nevertheless, we are not we are not just sitting down doing no further actions. We are continuing engaging in the Industry 4.0 elements, such as innovating quickly new products and new products to the market during this pandemic reason. Time to market is always crucial for any manufacturers. Time to market means time to bring new products into the market. And with the assistance of Surety on the 3D printer, we managed to design and develop new products for the hospital usage, for the biodegradable compostable hospital usage, use and throw products, which is now in a huge demand because of pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. So what measures that we have taken is looking into further enhancement of research and development and product innovation using Industry 4.0 to identify and to tap further new opportunities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramanas. Professor Zakri?
I'd just like to end by congratulating those two companies that we have heard from this afternoon. These are Zenaida indication or symptoms of innovative Malaysian spirit. But what is also amazing to me is the fact that they are making good living in spite of the great challenges that we are facing today. Secondly, they are in tune with a sustainable world. I only wish their efforts can be replicated with the assistance of the relevant government agencies and also academia through research and development, so that the spirit is one element that could ensure prosperous Malaysia in the future, amidst all these negative news around us. So congratulations to both, and also congratulations to Mike and USM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Zakri. And you're absolutely right. We know that Malaysia has many activities at the level of enterprises and entrepreneurs, and two of our star presenters today are a testament to that. And we know that policy also is there that gives hope for circular economy to emerge as a reality. But let us also remember that to become a reality, especially now, it must be supported by a coherent policy framework that puts all of those elements together. So it's a reaction to one of the last questions, is it up to the public? No, it's not. It has to be a concerted framework, and policies and policymakers have to help to realize it. So it would need to be a legislation that secures coherence of the governance as well. We also need a more coordinated support of the private sector, including through development of the frameworks for innovation among enterprises. Well, very much as the one which supported Ramanas and Chelsea in their journey. So, and the initiative which support knowledge and skills development towards that. We also need markets where demand for secondary material and assured quality exists. One of the questions which we couldn't tackle has been about differentiation between the product which are classified as a sort of end-of-life product and end-of-life material. And by the way, this is something which we need to look into carefully. Directly with you, please write to us. We will look at it. It's a little bit too technical to entertain during this seminar. But we need appreciation and demand of institutional private consumers, that is for sure. Now, the discussion of the new Green Deal, which mentioned, indicates already a 45% growth in employment as a result of transition to new, better normal. So it's probably something to give a chance now. If not now, it might never happen. We got a crisis, granted, and with this we got a chance of a lifetime to shift to circular, resilient, and inclusive growth. So let me conclude by thanking all of you who listened. I put questions, they are very insightful. They are giving us hints to the topics which we need to put for those kind of seminars in the future. Thank you very much. Let me also thank all of the presenters as well as our MC Farah and the whole webinar team of MITE, and express our hope that we might see all of us in the course of our next webinars. Again, well, we are in the team with MITE, so it's MITE, USM, and Green Penang Council, which would eagerly want to bring this initiative forward. For our Muslim participants, Ramadan Mubarak, and to all of us, stay safe, thank you, and stay strong.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zinaida, and all speakers. That was a very brilliant discussion. Thank you everyone for joining in this afternoon. Just a short reminder that our next episode, episode 3, will be on digital education, and it will be on this Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. You can get further updates on our Twitter, Mike Malaysia, and also our IG and Facebook. Thank you for joining us again. Selamat berbuka puasa and have a good evening ahead.